Okay, so now that we understand a little bit better how that we're supposed to divide bigger numbers, we need to talk about what we should be doing with these remainders. And I touched on it a little bit on Monday, but we didn't really go into a lot of detail with that. So what I need to do is show you a situation in which somebody might need to figure out what to do with a remainder. So let's consider if somebody was wallpapering a room. And if you had 73 inches of wallpaper left and you wanted to divide that up to use in a scrapbook and to equal lengths, how long would each piece be? Well, in our situation here, the person in question with the wallpaper happens to have 73 inches of wallpaper available. So we know we have 73 inches worth of wallpaper, and we know that we want 8 pieces of equal length. So what is it that we want to know? Well, one way that we can do this is we can find out how many inches we can have, and maybe it's got a fraction of an inch. In this case, we could divide it into 8 equal pieces like this. Say there's 8 pieces taken out of 73 inches. How many times does 8 go into 73? We know that that happens 9 times. 9 times 8 is 72. We subtract, and there's 1 left over. We can express this as a fraction. So 1/8. 9 and 1 over 8. That means that you could make 8 pieces 9 and 1/8 inches long. That's how many you could do. All right? That's one way that we can interpret a remainder, and sometimes when we're talking about measurements, that makes sense. Another way that we can do this is we can only use the quotient. Why might we only use a quotient? Well, let's say that you're a tour guide. And in our situation, we have a tour guide at a glass blowing studio, and he gives tours of the studio. But he can only take 7 people at a time. So there are 80 people that want to see this demonstration. How many groups of 7 will he show? So I have 80 people, and we're going to divide it into groups of 7. How many groups of 7 can he show? Well, let's see. Let's rewrite the problem. It's 80 divided by 7. How many times will 7 go into 80? We know that 9 times 7 is 63. 10 times 7 is 70. So let's look at this. There's a 1. 7 goes into 8 one time. 1 times 7 is 7. Subtract. We have 1 left, and we bring down our 0. 7 goes into 10 one time. 1 times 7 is 7. We subtract, and we have a 3, and there's nothing left to bring down. So there's 3 left over. He can take 11 groups of 7, and that's what they're asking. How many groups of 7 can he take? Only 11. These 3 don't count because they're not a group of 7. There are 11 groups of 7 that he can take. Well, but what if he wants to go ahead and give the tour to all 80 people? He could give the tour to just those 3, right? So if he gives the tour to all the people, how many tours will he have to give? Well, he'll have to give 11 groups of 7 plus 1 group of 3. So he has to give 12 tours in all. And then, of course, the last thing we can do is we can say if he gives the tours to all 80 people, after he gives tours to groups of 7, how many people are going to be in the last tour? And, well, that's the remainder. So it all depends on what question is being asked. If we're asking about how many groups of a certain amount, then all we care about is the quotient. If we're asking about how many total groups are there going to be, we have to count how many groups, even if they're not the same amount. And if there's a group left over, that's only the remainder. All right, so we're going to do some practice problems with this. It'll be posted on the block underneath this video. So work those problems after you do this video, and we'll do some personal math training practice on Monday. Y'all have a great weekend.